Hello everyone, welcome to the itracks Market Research Celebrity Series. This is an annual event that itracks runs to showcase the talent within itracks' network of market research professionals. My name is Garnett Weber. I am one of the founders of itracks and I'm excited to host the webinar series. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Ben Smithee will be providing a presentation today on Redefining Research ROI, how technology-based research, such as online communities, social intelligence, and mobile ethnography, are bringing true ROI and providing not only insights, but customer engagement, loyalty, and increased customer advocacy. We are very excited to have Ben join us. itracks has had the opportunity to work with Ben Smithee and his company SPYCH Research as both a vendor and a supplier on numerous occasions. We are very appreciative of his innovative and creative approach to research, creating value for clients. Ben is the CEO of SPYCH Research and has continued to be seen as a thought leader and innovator in the research industry. His team, SPYCH, works with leading brands around the world with a focus on future customer and specialty, specifically the Gen Y millennial segment. He was the first to educate the industry on the impact of social media, new technologies for consumer understanding, and he has presented around the world on various topics that continue to challenge the industry to grow and evolve without losing its fundamental roots. The SPYCH team is known for its passion for new thinking and non-traditional methods and is focused on putting research at the center of organizations, empowering them to act more impactfully, timely, and in cost-effective ways. Ben and his SPYCH team recently received the 2013-2014 AMA Marketer of the Year Award for the research category and have consulted some of the world's most well-known brands, including General Mills, Coca-Cola, Comcast, the American Cancer Society, McDonald's, and many more. Ben has been a featured contributor in nearly every major research industry publication and other publications such as Bloomberg's Business Week. He is a frequent lecturer at leading business schools, and he can be seen weekly across Texas on KTXD's The Broadcast, where he co-hosts a segment called The Weekend Insider. During the webinar, if you have questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat area at the bottom of the GoToWebinar screen. And if it fits, we'll bring the questions into the flow of the webinar. And we will definitely be having a question and answer session at the end. So feel free to enter the questions as you think of them at the end, and we can go from there. All right, go ahead, Ben.
Excellent. Thank you, Garnett. I appreciate the wonderful introduction. Very kind. And I'm super happy to be here. In terms of today, like Garnett mentioned, feel free to ask questions throughout, and if you have any questions on the webinar, you can reach me at any of this contact information. I'll be able to send out, one of the questions we always have is about the slides. I'll be able to send out a modified version of a few of the slides out today. Some of the stuff I have in here I can't send out, but most of it I can. So feel free to chime in. To start off, I really want to talk about, what is this redefined ROI of research? Before we talk about market research, and we get a lot in terms of, semantics and kind of nomenclature about, is it research, is it insights, is it intelligence, is it customers, consumers, people, respondents, et cetera, et cetera. But what I really want to talk about is, regardless of all the nomenclature, how are we defining its value? As the industry changes, as marketing changes, as consumers change, what is this new, sort of return on the investment that companies are spending on research? Because greatly it's being questioned right now in terms of what's its value, what's being automated, what's not being automated. You've heard all of those discussion points, I'm sure, whether you're sitting on the client side or whether you're sitting on the supplier side, on the technology side, whatever it may be. Researchers like us are being asked to redefine our value and kind of the return that we're showing brands in terms of the investment that they're spending on research. So I want to talk about how we're leveraging a lot of online methodologies and how I feel the industry is changing in general. Again, my contact information here. If you're on Twitter, you can tweet me at @SPYCH Research. That's SPYCH Research. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn. Text me, call me, email me. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I'll put this up at the end of the presentation as well. So let's get going. I think it's pretty safe to say that if we focus where the attention should be, it's on the evolving consumer. If you look at consumers today, there's no question that the definition of consumer, how consumers are going along their purchase journeys, their discovery path, their discovery path to purchase, all of this is changing and evolving greatly. And so what that means for us are a few different things. If you look at the Gen Y and the millennial segment, it's sort of no question in terms of why they're evolving. I like to look at this kind of roadmap when people say, you know, the evolving consumer, the millennial consumer, the future consumer, whatever they want to call it, and they ask, you know, why are they so different? What's causing them to be so online and the digital and everything? It's not just, you know, late advancements. It's looking at even back in the day in terms of how we grew up, being a Gen Y, a millennial, whatever you want to call it. Myself, you know, we grew up with the web. You look at back in '97 when you had AOL Instant Messenger. That was our first time of really communicating in real time, live, with friends, strangers, other people around the world in the internet form. So we were sitting there socializing our interactions. We'd be sitting there doing our homework. I'm sure some of you have any Gen Y kids. You'd go into their room and you'd say, I thought you were supposed to be doing your homework, and they'd have a million AOL Instant Messenger windows up. And their response was, I am doing my homework. And it's not that they were, you know, cheating and answering their questions with their friends, but asking them for help and talking to them about their day. Then we started that multitasking of doing work and doing schoolwork or doing our activities while having a social connection as well. When we look at 1999, I like to look at LiveJournal, because LiveJournal was the first time we shared long-form content on the web with complete strangers as well as our peers. So you had people sharing intimate discussions about their lives and their days and their families and their journey through life in general, and specialized topics. We started to see themes and threads on specialized topics of whether it was being a mom or being a patient of some type or being a teenager growing up. And they were sharing these with complete strangers. 2001, I think this is one of the most underrated changes in the evolutions in consumer sort of psychology and consumer behavior on the web was with Wikipedia, because this is the first time we started trusting the wisdom of the crowds and the wisdom of strangers. We started understanding and started to validate the wisdom of crowds and you know, crowdsourcing information and facts, to where Wikipedia has become now a pretty reliable source of information. I will say it's not the be-all, end-all, but it is a great source. 2002, Friendster's in there because this was the very first significant quote-unquote social media network or online community as we know it today. It's the first to 1 million active members, and while it's not huge now, it paved the way for things like MySpace in 2003. MySpace was the first time we really started expressing an active sort of participation in online communities. And then obviously in Facebook in 2004, you started seeing what we consider now to be the modern social network online community. YouTube in 2005, the video content. We became comfortable with sharing ourselves and sharing videos of ourselves online and on the web. And that content right there is perhaps paired with Facebook and Twitter, some of the most important for our industry. Because when you look at YouTube and you look at the content that you can glean from videos and online content and the way it's changed media and marketing and advertising, it's super impactful for our industry. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. 2006, obviously Twitter, that's really what we consider the engaged community and the connected consumer based on they're connecting with brands. It's the first time they're connecting with brands, connecting with celebrities, tweeting back and forth with brands, communicating their wants, their needs, their satisfactions and dissatisfactions. So this really changed the way for our industry in terms of what we can learn from a competitive landscape, from a customer service landscape, and again in the sales and marketing landscape. So I lay this out here to show you that the reason why the consumer is evolving the way it is because of the way that we've grown up and the way that we've experienced life, and the way we've socialized our lives with our friends and family and even with strangers. That said, we're also an empowered consumer. Because of the technologies and because of the online environments that are today, we're empowered like as consumers like we've never been before. And one of those things is that we're shifting from the brand-generated perception to a consumer-generated perception. We're shifting to social media networks and things of online communities and niche communities to say, hey, here's what this brand represents. Here's how the brand customer service is. Here's how where they fall short based on their marketing and advertising claims, or here's where they exceed our expectations and provide excellent value. We're trusting strangers. If you go back to this sort of 2001 landscape, we're starting to trust our strangers and people that we don't even know closely from our own communities to make buying decisions and purchase decisions based on. And the speed is increasing and increasing in terms of how we're making decisions, our path to purchase, and that journey there, because we're shortcutting all the lengthy research process and getting them all online. The other thing is we're shifting from social media to the socialized web. And when I say this, a lot of people sometimes don't understand quite what I'm talking about. And what I mean here is that social is no longer a site. Yes, there are still social networks. Yes, there are things like Facebook. Yes, there are things like Twitter and YouTube and Snapchat and Instagram. But social is really becoming an aspect of the web in general. It's an attribute of the web. When you look at the 5 million plus times per day, the +1 button Google Plus is used, the millions of web pages. I think this is an outdated stat. I would say it's well over a million web pages that automatically connect using Facebook. And then you look at 47% of Americans say Facebook is their #1 influencer of purchases. Compared to 2011, that was only 24%. And now Facebook users log in at least 5 times a day. You'll get 23% of those. When you look at the millennial and sort of that connected consumer category, I would say the grand majority of people never even log out because they're logged in via the native app on their phone. So the way in which social is impacting the web is very, very interesting today because it's becoming part of how we market and advertise to consumers, and greatly it's becoming part of how we understand consumers. When you look at brands that are socializing their website, you look at Titleist and what they're doing, they're creating this online community on their own website. So instead of just creating marketing and advertising that leaks into other sites like Facebook and things of that nature, they're actually hosting the conversation on their own website and socializing their own content. They're creating discussion forums for their fans and golfers around the world to look on and socialize with their other fans, whether it's about Titleist or not. They're talking about clubs. They're talking about technique and types of shots and types of balls they use, course tips, travel tips, all of this type of stuff, as well as running contests, obviously, for engagement for their community. But they're hosting conversations. It's not necessarily that they're having to create new communities. They're just opening their own site and their own assets up for community conversations. And if you think about this from our vantage point, what great amount of insights they can glean from all the conversations that are happening right there on their site. The next thing is from social, we're starting to get serious about ROI. We're starting to see the true value. When you look at 40% of social media users have purchased an item in store or online after sharing it on Facebook, Twitter, or Pinterest, we're starting to see that purchase intent and that what we are gauging as purchase intent is actually leading to conversion. When we start seeing social traffic to e-commerce sites, we're seeing almost 18, close to 20% now of revenue increases from social traffic leading to e-commerce sales. And this was just in the beginning stages of last year. So we're at that point of exponential growth where I see these statistics climbing greatly. So when you start seeing this true realized ROI in the marketing and advertising arena, what comes to be of ROI in the research community? When speed is more important than ever. When you look at Samsung's partnership with Ellen and the selfie that went around, that was heard around the world and seen around the world, and literally broke Twitter and set every social media record out there. When you see what I still consider to be one of the best engagements in real time via social media by the Oreo team doing this, you can still dunk in the dark. For those of you that know that campaign, that social campaign that they ran in the blackout during the Super Bowl. It was amazing that we're starting to see this true branded ROI. But what's really important is that I think there's an opportunity here to put research at the center of organizations. Right now, research is often a siloed aspect, or at best, it becomes an attribute of marketing and advertising and communication. But where I see in the future, realistically, if us as researchers, if we play our cards right and if we act in the ways in which we have the ability to act, research will sit at the very, very center of brands and organizations in the very near future. That's because when you look at the speed in which marketing and advertising has to occur, there's no other way for them to get the data and the insights that they need unless research is sitting right at the center of that organization. But in order to do that, research has to fulfill a few different new things. We have to become more fast. We have to become faster at achieving and gaining insights. We have to become more actionable in terms of how we actually disperse our insights and what is able to be done by the insights that we give to our teams. And we have to be cost effective, meaning we have to be able to afford to do iterations on research at scale over and over at multiple times throughout any campaign or any type of product development or campaign development process. So it has to be cost effective enough to do it at scale. It has to be actionable enough that it's not just here's objective insights and here's what we learned, but no, here's what you can actually do based upon it. Then it has to be done quick enough that it's actually usable and valuable to the marketing and advertising in real time with consumers. We've reached this paradigm of sort of analyzing versus asking. And a lot of people think that when I talk about social and online communities and big data and things of that, that research is changing and that we're moving away from sort of a qualitative field to purely big data analysis and that the research industry is somewhat dying. But I think it's actually less of that and more of a blend between analyzing and asking. I think that we're starting to get access to data in ways that we've never seen before. One of the questions that I saw recently at a conference that I thought was really amazing and pretty interesting is that if you ask yourself, how much value are you providing, or how much can you charge for your services, or of what value are you to your clients when they can get data for free? When all the data that they need is free from the web, what value are you providing? And if you think about that, how far are we from that scenario where brands can get so much data online via web traffic, via web conversions, via social media, things like that, to where the cost of data is somewhat nominal. So then what type of value are we providing? Well, that's the asking value. That's the contextual value. It's saying, okay, here's the data and analyzing and saying, okay, what does this really mean to the brand, and here's what you need to do with it. It's purely and more truly consultative. We've talked about this notion of, consultants versus just researchers for ever since I've been in the industry, but I think now more than ever, this is truly, truly coming to fruition. And what's interesting about this is because it sort of changes our vantage point and what we need to do as researchers. The other thing that's interesting is as we talk about consumers being more involved in the empowered consumer, we're starting to see incentivization models changing rapidly. Consumers are no longer incentivized by just answering surveys or just being paid in a transactional way for their thoughts. Because social has changed the game. Consumers want to feel closer than ever with brands. They want to be able to impact the way brands make decisions, impact the products that they develop, and impact the way in which we're able to consume those products. We want to have a relationship with brands. We just want to feel like our voice is heard, especially with the younger millennial Gen Y population. I think this is a great example of what Mercedes-Benz did with the Take the Wheel campaign. And they're sort of, they track journeys of these 5 Instagram photographers that all had, literally 500,000 or more followers on Instagram. And they let them take part in their journey and just take Mercedes-Benz along with them. So they were posting pictures of what they felt their life journey was and represented Mercedes-Benz versus saying what most brands do in social, saying, hey, here's our latest campaign, tweet our campaign, share our post on Facebook, and we'll enter you into a drawing for a free car. What Mercedes did is say, hey, show us your lifestyle that represents Mercedes and the CLA and the new model that's under $30,000 that's targeted toward the Gen Y and the young professional. Show us what your lifestyle is that fits the Mercedes journey, and then take our brand along for your ride, empowering the consumer to take the brand instead of the brand saying, hey, take our brand and share our message and basically spam your friends with all of our content, and then we'll incentivize you with something. So that incentivization model is changing as well, with consumers wanting to be closer and have an active say in the conversation. The reason why this is important is because it's going to change the way in which we do research and the way in which we have to form a relationship with consumers in order to really achieve insights from them and really gain a way of interacting with them and having them interact back with us. So what are we doing? What does this all mean from a research perspective? One of the first aspects I want to talk about is social intelligence, leveraging online and often free tools in order to get a social intelligence about a brand. If I was to ask you right now how quickly you could obtain 50,000 perceptions about a brand with regard to how consumers view that brand, and we take a brand like Bacardi, right? How quickly could you get 50,000 perceptions about it, and how do consumers view that brand, et cetera, get some context around it. Maybe you could do an online survey. Maybe if you had an online community, you could send that out to your panel. Maybe if they had an app, they could send a ping out to all their app users and get some feedback that way, or send it to an omnibus or do a traditional sort of online survey. But literally, what I'd say is in the future, you could sit there and within 10 seconds get close to 500,000 images of people that hashtag Bacardi on Instagram. So these are just Instagram, not even counting Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, but within seconds, you can go on a mobile device and look at this and start seeing all these pictures. And so what are we looking at here? What is this value? What value does this bring to us as researchers? And how does this help put us at the center of the organization? Well, first of all, you have to know what type of action you're able to sort of draw from this. So not only are we able to see what people hashtag and associate with Bacardi, in some cases we're able to see what they're eating with Bacardi. In some cases we're able to see what type of tchotchkes and what type of promotional items that Bacardi has used and those party promos and things they've given out that people like and are consuming and actually using, so they can spend their budget on promotion items that people are consuming. You start seeing multiple things here of those, Bacardi sunglasses, of people taking pictures of them, of the branded sunglasses. So you start seeing favorable notions around that. You're starting to see what things people are mixing with Bacardi. You're starting to see what type of environments people are drinking Bacardi. You're starting to see what other competitive products people are stocking their home bars with as substitutes for Bacardi. All of this within a matter of seconds for free online. But again, the key is, how do we analyze this, and what type of value can we bring to our clients and our brands? Sitting here and understanding, what types of promotional campaigns. Sitting here also, you're starting to see the commentary. You can click into each of these images and see, what people are saying and talking about, and what other hashtags people are using. Are they using Bacardi as fun? Are they using Bacardi in what type of tone? What type of comments are they talking about it? What type of drink mixers are they making of their own homemade cocktails? So Bacardi can use those as well. And it's interesting because we get a lot of context. We can also dig in deeper, sort of in a mobile ethnography feel, and dig in deeper now and see each of these users and what other types of content they're posting. How loyal are they to Bacardi versus how often are they just buying based on other factors and buying other substitute products. We can even engage these people now and recruit them for online studies so we can do in-depth ethnography. Part of the way that we use a lot of this for value for our clients is sitting here and use this upfront before a study starts. We're able to sit here, recruit people for a further in-depth mobile ethnography, and then because we already know they're comfortable sharing things via mobile, we know they're going to be great participants for a mobile ethnography study, and we recruit them from social media and get them to participate in our studies in depth about whether it could be, liquor, it could be about food, it could be about fashion, anything you want. You can take the same approach and immediately add value in real time and start showing immediate insights back to your client that they can start acting upon. From here, there's other sites that help you analyze this content. This is a site that used to be called Statagram, but now it's called Iconosquare. And you can go in there with your account. You log in with your credentials. What we'll do is we'll get access to our clients' credentials, so their brand credentials on Instagram. We'll plug them into the platform. and we'll start seeing what types of posts are getting, what types of pictures are getting the most comments, what types of pictures are getting the most likes, everything from what types of filters are most utilized and most engaged with, what types of hashtags are you using versus what hashtags should you be using. This is an example of an analysis from my own personal Instagram feed. It shows, again, here, what type of filter, what type of media that I'm using with filters, what's favorite filter, which are my most liked media posts, how many posts versus how many likes and followers it gained. You can go in and dive down per post and start optimizing the time in which you post that material. And so what we're able to do with this is take this insight right back to the brand immediately and tell them consultatively, here's how you should be posting your content. You're posting content right now that's humorous, but what we're seeing, which is more informative content, is actually gaining more engagement. So start posting more informative instructional content, how to use your product, different recipes with your product, different things to do with the packaging after the product is used up and consumed. Here's the filters that you should use. Here's the hashtags you should use. Here's the time of day that you should post. Here's the day of the week you should post. And here's the type of commentary that you should use. And here's the other type of influencers you should engage. So immediately, within seconds, you're able to start adding value and, again, go back to your client and go back to the brands that they can use. The next thing here is we do a lot of social media intelligence, what we call social media intelligence, because we try to move it way past social listening and way past social insight. But what are we actually looking at? Today I wanted to give you a glimpse at kind of what are some of the things that we look at within social media research to make it truly intelligent for our clients to use and take into action. So instead of just counting thematic elements, right? So when you go back here, a lot of what you see from most social media analysis is, what are the most common mentions? What are the biggest hashtags that are using Twitter? Is sentiment positive? Is sentiment negative? Where is the geolocation from most places of where they're posting? And I think that's become very basic social media listening and basic social media insights. But to take it to a true intelligence level that puts research at the center of the organization, we start looking at a few different things. We look at things that are causing attention, affinity, acquisition, and advocacy. So we take brands through this funnel and we start looking at, okay, what is the content theme? What are things that people are using? What's gaining attention? What are things that are getting most likes, retweets, et cetera, favorable conversation? But what's more important is how is this driving acquisition? Is this driving traffic to the website? Is this driving traffic across social channels? Is this acquiring more followers, likes, and a bigger audience? And is this actually selling your product? From there, we look at the most important thing in advocacy and looking at how are we able to convert customers into customer advocates. The things that we're looking at to provide value way outside of, outside of just likes and followers is really looking at how are we driving sales. Everything that we want to do within social is driving back to how are we driving sales, how are we driving back to content consumption, if it's not actual product consumption, and then how are we driving advocacy. And to us, it's way more than just mentions. And we look at three different key criteria in KPI. Are we showing the client a story? The below example is an example of a custom infographic that we use to show a story of how media travels and how social media and the content and the different campaigns are traveling throughout the weeks of the campaign. The second KPI we look at is, does it provide actionability? So showing a story really helps it be consumed, right? In order to get your insights and research consumed throughout the organization, it has to be visual. It has to show and tell a story versus just present data. The second thing is it has to provide actionability, and it has to provide actionability across organizational platforms. It can't just provide actionability to research or marketing or advertising. It has to be actionable to customer service and marketing, advertising, PR, IT, et cetera, and we have to be able to measure impact. So some of the ways that we measure impact beyond mentions and sentiment are these. One of the biggest ways we do is measuring the impact of traditional marketing and advertising. So if you look at the way in which a company will launch a traditional ad campaign on TV, radio, and print, Once they launch that campaign, it's pretty much a 1 or a 0. It's on or off, and they can throttle it back or increase how often it's running, et cetera, but really are stuck basically on the media schedule. So it's basically a fixed asset then. What we're able to do and what we're tracking is, say that traditional marketing campaign has 3 key messages involved in there, and message 1 and 2 and 3 are three different things that we want to pull out about the brand to introduce a new product. Well, what we'll use social intelligence for is go online and see what's going on in the digital and social space and say, which of those key brand messages that we've already tested in traditional research, often we test our concepts online. We do quite a bit of ad testing and concept testing with the itracks team even, where we're testing concepts, we're testing media, dynamic and still media. And once it launches, we'll go back and we'll look at the social space and say, okay, of those 3 key brand messages that we tested, how are they pulling through into the social space? If we know message 1 and 2 are pulling through, but the 3rd is getting lost, we immediately inform the digital marketing team and the agency that, okay, our 3rd message is not pulling through. How do we supplement that with your social media strategy and your digital marketing advertising to actually make sure that pulls through? And then we go back and we measure and start seeing, okay, in your brand tracking studies, in your ad trackers, and in all of these tracking campaigns, is that 3rd part of the message pulling through again? Are we seeing people talk about it on social media? We're measuring the time in which it takes traditional campaign to reach social media. We're measuring the impact of big brand decisions. So the infographic here was about a brand acquisition from a small private brand being acquired by a bigger brand, and we're seeing, you know, how is this affecting the brand PR and brand equity. So we're telling this story day after day, week after week, and allowing the brand to set up their PR strategy in order to act on this immediately as it's happening in real time. The next thing is we're sitting there and we're building out these strategic maps and saying, okay, based on that engagement, based on that affinity, based on the customer acquisition, how are we driving people through this funnel? How are we utilizing social and blog content, short form video, you know, pay-per-click, PPM marketing, all of these different strategies? How are we able to inform that content via social media? If you look at one of the greatest things that I've seen lately, advancements from Facebook, if you don't know what a Facebook dark post is, or some of their advanced analytics and their tracking, the custom audiences, their power editor basically, and their custom audiences is extremely powerful now for brands and social media. We're able to take that social media analysis, and we could actually talk about a whole webinar just based on this information here. But what we're seeing is taking social media insights and able to target down based on the context. So say we want to target females differently than males, older millennials versus younger millennials, and sit there and say, okay, we want to target specific content that we know based on the research that we've done online and based on the research we've done in social media, and target them to precisely the correct people. We can sit there and launch A/B tests. We can sit there and launch custom create content straight to that audiences. The power editor and the custom audiences is also something that allows you now to import directly your customer database and encrypt it and import it directly into the Facebook platform, so you can start cross-referencing your fans versus your customers, which is extremely powerful tool. You know, I was happy to hear the guys over at VaynerMedia. I saw Gary Vaynerchuk talk about it a couple of weeks ago at the Casro conference about their agency using some of this stuff very powerfully too with the Sonic brand. And so this stuff is no joke. It's not that it's replacing traditional research, but it's empowering us to take our traditional research and put it directly into action in ways that we've never been able to do before, by saying, okay, here's the content you need to create, here's the context, here's the targeting, and here's the people we need to go after, and launch it directly into the social space. If you have questions on any of this and you want to follow up with me after the webinar, I'd be happy to answer questions, whether it's about Facebook Dark Post, which is an unpublished post, or any of the advanced analytics and advertising on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. The other aspect that I think is extremely valuable is the way online communities and research hubs are going. We're in the midst of launching several of these online communities as follow-ups from online communities that we did last year with our brand. We have a huge online community right now with the itracks team, where we're doing tons of new product testing and prototyping, even in the healthcare space. So all of you pharma and healthcare folks out there, yes, it can be done in pharma. Yes, this is equally as applicable to pharma and healthcare, and we're doing it, and it's extremely impactful. So how do I think online communities are coming about as research hubs? If I had to choose one particular methodology that I think is the future of research for a methodology and technology standpoint, I'd say it's the online community. And I realize it's kind of a cheat because it really is the ultimate hub of all online methodologies. But done right and done with a future mindset, online communities are going to change the industry as we know it, not just from a traditional MROC standpoint, but from a way in which that we've never seen a return before. We're starting to see that with our online communities, we're starting to see real ROI, not just return on insights, meaning we're learning new things, we're hearing from customers, we're connecting the brand closer with customers in real time. But we're starting to see that if you engage consumers in an online community in the right way, you start to see some tremendous, tremendous results. Community that we did for a large retail brand, and that if you want to see, we invited them, it's called, and what it was a 10-week community where we invited in some of their best customers to participate. We engaged them they were engaged on TV, on laptops, on mobile, and of course, they could log on any platform, log into the community, and every day we had something new for them. One of the things that it was not necessarily just insights, but engagement. So only one day a week did we have a true hardcore insights activity. And each Thursday we had that activity, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, we had more engagement building tools. We had some light surveys of, favorite commercials, favorite products, things like that. But it was, scavenger hunt. We'd put today's product online and we'd make them go search through the website. We describe a product and we make them figure out which product we're describing and find it online. And the consumers that found that product would win that product, or they'd get a gift card to the company. Things like that. It was, real-time viral videos. We try to keep them up to date where they check back in the online community each day to get the latest in online news. We'd give them the latest viral videos or funny things that are going viral online so they could consume that content and have a reason to come back to the community other than just to answer our questions. The other thing, besides blending in that insights and engagement, is we focused on the experience and the intrinsic motivators. This community that we did, and most of the communities that we do now, are not monetarily incentivized. We're going away from that transactional nature of traditional research. Even when we're doing online studies, we're trying to move away from just this transactional, hey, come participate in our research, we'll pay you X amount of dollars for your participation, answer all of our questions, here's points, X, Y, and Z. We're moving away from that, moving more towards, hey, help us help you, help us make the brand better, and in turn, we're going to let you in on the things that we're learning. We're going to let you try new products. We're going to let you engage with people that are like you and love the brand. We're going to let you know and engage directly with the product and, the brand, and have an impact. We're sharing the impact that the consumers are having on the brand and really focusing on that intrinsic motivation. And the result of that is huge. We're no longer just seeing people tuning in to the brand for the research, get their points, get their payment, and then tuning right back out like they've never had a relationship at all. It was just a transaction. We're starting to see that evolve into long-term, lifetime value customers that are coming about and being engaged in the community, and we're seeing a crazy amount of things happen. So what did we do within our online community? So just within 10 weeks, this became a hub that literally lived at the center of that organization's brand. We sat there and things from every aspect, from IT, customer service, their credit card, TV and video and advertising and marketing, their phone centers, all of this became clients for our online community. So within 10 weeks, because of the speed of this online community, because of the real-time nature, we were able to conduct 9 different in-depth studies. We had over 200 images, 30 videos plus that we were able to glean from this online community. We recruited to 2 different online boards, and we're doing this in the itracks community we have right now. We're recruiting from the community to ad hoc research studies. So in 10 weeks, we were able to fully recruit additional studies. Within the 9 in-depth studies, we also did an additional 10 quick qual studies, online discussions, things like that, mobile ethnographies that we launched straight from the online community platform as a hub. So basically, overall, 19 studies plus 2 more additional study recruits. We had consumers that were so engaged that they visited, 5 different consumers came to the to the corporate headquarters to do corporate headquarter visits because they were so engaged and so enthralled by the community. We were hearing customers saying that finally I feel like a true stockholder in the company. I feel valued. I've connected with people like I never have before. This is something different than I've ever had, and I'll be a lifetime fan. We were seeing consumers recommend products and different new things. Hey, did you see today's newest product that just launched? It'd be perfect for you, so-and-so. Based on what you've been saying before, you should check it out. Here's a link. These are not things that we pushed from the community management side, but things that the consumers were doing and the community members were doing on their own because they felt so engaged, because we made them feel like they were part of the process, not just a number in a transactional relationship. So what did we see from this? What type of ROI did we actually see from the online community? Measuring this, and we took traditional measurements to do this. We not only saw, our increased engagement, we saw, lifetime value scores go up. We saw lift in cart size, increased spending over that 10 weeks, directly compared to people that were not in the community. So we saw purchase behavior go up. So we started seeing a true monetary and financial ROI from the community that pretty much paid for itself in the long run. Increased engagement and increased advocacy. These people are still talking about it. After the community ended, there were some community members that went online to a Facebook group and created their own private Facebook group so they could keep engaging with the other community members that they met and while participating in this community. That's how engaged they were. So we saw increased financial spending, cart sizes, and monetary spend throughout the community. We also saw increased consumer engagement and affinity scores. So brand engagement, brand affinity scores went up, and increased advocacy. We started seeing people talking about it online more, on social media, et cetera, et cetera. In my opinion, and as we start to wrap up here, I want to open it up for questions and make sure we have time for questions. I truly think that we work in the best industry ever, and that right now we have the opportunity to truly capitalize and become the center of brands. With things like online communities at our hub, that we can launch anything ad hoc that we want from that community, with things like mobile ethnography, with things like social intelligence, we have the way to really hold the key to insights and brand intelligence to organizations and sit right at the center, to where at any time, IT can come to research, marketing, advertising, communication, customer service, the executive team can come straight to the research team and ask and receive value. And what that does is that gives researchers that proverbial seat at the table that we've been looking for. When we've been working with clients, we've seen, from the best cases, we've seen these things put research finally at the center of the organization, to where everybody is coming in with insights. The research has been translated and communicated all across the organization, all the way up to the CEO, who's checking in weekly to see what's new in the community and seeing what's going on there. We're seeing the communities and online research taking off, and these type of community and social intelligence reports starting to be distributed and talked about in the board meetings. The value that research is able to provide today in real time, and the measurable ROI that we can provide is unlike anything we've ever seen before. And I'm excited about that. And I think that if you leverage some of these tools, specifically the tools that give us the speed, the agility, the actionability, and the cost effectiveness that many of these online research tools have, it gives a huge advantage to researchers today. I'll put my information up here so you can contact me. And I want to go ahead and have Garnett open up the lines now if we want to have any questions, if there's any Q&A that wants to go on. I thank you very much for your time, and I hope that this has been informative and inspiring for all of you on the end of the line to take action and see where you can put yourself and help your team sit at the center of the organization. Again, my name is Ben Smithee. I'm the CEO at SPYCH, and I hope I've helped you out with some new ideas today, and hopefully I've inspired you to also take your clients and take your brand to the center of the organization and provide true ROI. Thanks, Garnett.
Thank you, Ben, for a very exciting and energy and just lots of creative ideas. We will now go into our question and answer period. Just due to the popularity of this webinar, we won't be able to open the phone lines because I think the audio will just be a little too challenging. So I will get you to enter your questions via the chat area at the bottom of the GoToWebinar panel. So you can enter those and we will try to get to your questions. All right, so we have a question here. Ben, what qualifications should I look for in a good social media analyst?
And a good social media analyst, that's a great question. So they need to know the basics, but I actually start backwards. The qualities that I look for in a social media analyst would be the qualities that I'd look for in a social media marketer. So do they know what drives engagement? Do they understand how online communities, do they understand how social networks actually work from an engagement and a conversion and sales? Do they have experience pulling people through a funnel from gaining their attention in the crowded social space to engaging them from the brand perspective, and then ultimately driving them to some sort of actionability? Because if you don't know those things, it's hard to understand what you're really looking for in a social media analyst. Because you're really just letting the tool do mentions and frequencies and themes and sentiment, then you're not really truly providing value. If you sit there and you provide, it's like brand trackers. If you sit there and you're providing these sentiment scores and mention scores, what good does that really do? What are they actually moving based upon those things, right? So if you have a good social media marketer, they understand what metrics need to be looked for and understand what they can glean from social media research in order to drive actionability because they've been there. So they know how to inform a marketing and advertising team in an agency that's doing social media marketing and communications on the things that they need to do based on the analytics. They need to have some sort of sense of how to work the tools, but the tools have become so easy now. They need to have, it's something that's very, very meticulous. Social media analysis right now is still somewhat of a bear to do because I don't care what platform's out there, there's still a lot of manual work that needs to be done in order to do it right. They need to be innately and insatiably curious. So they need to look past the data and to say, what does this really mean? But I'd really look for, on the marketing and advertising side, someone to pull them over and understand the data analytics side. Because the platforms will do a lot of the basic analytics, and then after that, we're doing all the rest of it in Excel and doing, analytics and analysis and creating our custom charts from there. The other thing is you can get the bonus thing, and the person that you give the extra signing bonus and the raise to is someone that's a visually inclined as well, that can tell the story with that. Because the data alone isn't valuable anymore. It has to tell a story. It has to show a story. So I'd look for someone that understands the marketing value of social media, someone that understands the visual nature of it, and that is meticulous and insatiably curious.
Great, thanks, Ben. All right, the next question here. How does your approach differ with B2B clients?
So it's interesting because for us, we're a B2B client, and we definitely drink our own Kool-Aid. So, I mean, as a B2B company, we're leveraging social intelligence to understand what companies are talking about out there. So we're understanding from a client acquisition standpoint, what are the things in the social campaigns that our clients are doing? What are the things that brands are doing that if we want to go after a brand, we're looking and we're analyzing all their content. Where are the gaps in their content that we can use to provide a solution for? Where are the strengths in their content that we can say, hey, here's what you're doing good, make sure you don't come off of this. So we were sitting in the boardroom and we're presenting their team with our ideas and how we want to work together. We have a whole deck of insight that we can come to. For B2B professionals are the biggest ones that want to talk. If you get professionals of like minds, they're even competitive professionals in the same online community, you can sit there and glean a ton of insights on selling practices, competitive intelligence, the approaches, industry problems, what are trends and themes that they're seeing across the industry from various salespeople, various marketers, advertisers, et cetera, et cetera. So B2B communities and social intelligence is huge. I look at, again, I'm analyzing the same types of things. If I'm a B2B and I'm selling business services to other businesses, I'm looking at those potential target clients and seeing how are they talking, what is their approach, and I'm back-ending their internal strategies off of their external marketing and advertising efforts. So I'm taking the same approach, really. We're taking the same approach with our team as we do with B2B internally for our own brand, as well as the same things that we're doing for consumers.
Great, thanks, Ben. Next question here. Can you comment on your online communities? What would be the typical length, number of participants, etc.?
We've ranged from 6 months to 10 weeks. You see how much you can get done in just 10 weeks. I find that the mid-range communities, so a couple months, 3 months, something like that, is an ideal range for a length. And then you start refreshing and things like that, because you don't want to get the internal team burnt out and you don't want to get the community members too burnt out. But we've seen communities that go on, longitudinally, indefinitely. We've seen communities that last just a month or 6 weeks. And right now, I think one of the communities that we're doing with you guys is a 6-month-long community. So I don't think there's an ideal length. It's how much content can you keep them engaged with. Again, when a lot of clients are worried about, I don't have enough content to do an online community. That's not true. You have tons of content and tons of issues that you're trying to understand. It's just having the right partner to help you put those into the context of an online community. Remember, a lot of these big ideas, you have to break down into weekly segments in order to get the most from it. You can't take a whole big research study and pack it into 1 week on an online community. You have to break it up into several different initiatives. In terms of community size, we take the same, a friend of mine, Neil, from SPYCH Consulting, they do a ton of online communities too, and we see the same things they do. We have very, very parallel approaches to community, and our thoughts there are that, if you start seeing, active participants of 100 active people on a thread, when you go to any thread, just like Facebook, after you start seeing, 20, 30 comments, you're just scrolling now, and you become a lurker, and you're not really adding to that conversation because you don't feel like you have anything else to add. So, when we see 50 participants active on a study on so you may have, 250 community members in the community, but we're looking at active participants. So on average, a diverse mixture of those 250 community members, 30 to 50 people will be active on that week activity or that day's activity. We're fine with that, because any more than that, you start sort of contributing to lurking versus active participation. So we see anything from 10 to 50 active contributors per each activity or each daily engagement, and then seeing upwards 250 to 1,000 members in the community. But you really want to work on segmenting those out if you do have larger communities. That's easier to be done on a one-to-one basis. So if you have a specific question on that, I can answer later for you. If you set up the scenario for the brand and what you're trying to get at, I can help you with right-sizing that community for you.
Great, thanks, Ben. Next question here. Do you have any techniques or tips for improving engagement in online communities?
Yes. It's thinking about yourself. Just spend time on Facebook and Twitter and seeing what really gets engaged with. What are the things, the campaigns that really go viral? It has nothing to do with truly providing brand value. So engaging, it's given that if you do the insights work right, you're going to get value. So stop trying to poach every second of the consumer's time to getting brand value. Focus 90% of your time, 60 to 90% of your time on providing value to the consumer, providing value to the community member, and that 40% of the time asking for something back in return that's brand focused. Because you can get at brand insights by not making it a branded activity for the consumer to complete. You can start looking at things and trends from lifestyles to start having them engage. We do activities about, sharing personal stories. We do activities where each week we'll feature a new community member. So it gives them a way to talk about themselves. We often do this by video. So they'll do a video upload, or we'll do a video upload about them, where they're showcasing their favorite thing, their favorite purchase lately, their favorite marketing campaign. introducing their family, things like that, and it puts them in the spotlight and shows us that shows them that we care about them, not just what they can provide value to the brand. So we talk about fun activities that are completely unrelated to the brand. We try to keep it on brand, right? Meaning that it's somewhat related to the category, or if the brand's serious, we're not going to do something completely crazy and stupid. But if the brand's fun, we're not going to do something that's lame just because, or sort of stoic just because. We want to do something that's on brand, but not necessarily brand centric. It's fun activities. Like I said, product searches online, upload your favorite viral video. We've had people recreate videos before. We've had them tell us their kind of life journey or their story or their patient journey before. We've had them upload using new products, buying new products, shopping in the store, showing us favorite outfits, things like that. All sorts of non-brand centric but brand-related activities are things that we like to do, and anything that focuses on providing, the spotlight on the consumer and is super engaging because they're social. They want to talk about themselves too.
Great. Well, thank you, Ben. We are at the end of our question and answer session.